Good evening, everyone. Welcome to FPL BlackBox ahead of Game Week 9, Take 2. How are you, Mr. Andy Mode? You right?
I'm not too bad, mate. Yeah, is it still lagging or are we all right?
No, we're good. I think that's it. I tried quite an optimistic setting the resolution to 4K. And I think that might be the reason why things weren't as great as they were. But hello to everyone. I'm sorry that Mr. Mark Sutherland isn't here, but it's great to see you, Andy, for your first Black Box of the season, isn't it?
It is indeed. It's first Black Box of the season yet. Yeah, I've missed it. It's been a while. I don't know the last time I was on. I know, obviously, my favourite one was when we were roasting your wild card, but I think that was a little while back now.
That was a Friday night mid-season, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
You know the exact date, don't you?
Christmas. Yeah, probably burned into my mind. Luckily, my season started a little bit better this time, so it's not quite as bad as it been. How have you found the season so far? You been enjoying it?
It's not been too bad. I've had a little bit of a struggle so far this season. Usually I'm a little bit higher than this, but it's been, I've made a few moves a little too early and that sometimes hurt me. And I seem to have avoided the Liverpool midfielder points. I've owned 3 of them and seem to have owned them all at the wrong times, but it's picking up a little bit now. Got a green arrow this week, so hopefully that can carry on. And the team's looking all right. So fingers crossed. Yeah, I think this is the first time I've streamed with you for a while where you've been ahead of me, actually, which doesn't feel very nice.
I mean, it was heading in the direction of it was going to be my highest rank for about 18 months, but red arrow this week after so many people. It was a strange game week, and we've got quite a lot to talk about. We only have you for about 45 minutes because then you've got a delivery coming. Which is a supermarket of choice? That's the key question. Is it a Sainsbury's?
I'd love to say like Ocado or something like that, but it's not. No, it's just Tesco's.
Tesco. Okay, I thought you were a Sainsbury's man, but Tesco is fine. So we got lots to cover. We're going to talk about all the different stats. Mark's done some great tables for us, even though he's not here. We got our teams to cover, and depending on how long Andy's around for, we've got predictions and everything else. If Andy goes, I'll stay around for a bit and answer some question and things like that. We do have a sponsor for this week's episode, and this is of course Manscaped. You are watching 2 bearded men on the screen right now. I have the I don't know if you knew that Manscaped do beard trimmers. Do you, Andy, as well as the ball shavers?
I didn't know that. No, tell me more.
Well, there you go. Well, they do. They do. So I use the Manscaped beard trimmer, which is great because we go for the more kind of longer beard look. They've actually just brought out a brand new product called the Chairman Pro, which is for people who basically want an electric beard trimmer but want to go a bit closer to the skin. So this is where the 5 o'clock somewhere comes from. If you want a 5 o'clock shadow, don't. There's a video of it as well where the guy's doing it, and it's a little bit suspect. But it's called the Chairman Pro. Great new product. It's got 2 kind of interchangeable heads that are magnetic, so you can go for your stubble look or your clean shaven look. Pair it with your beard trim if you want to grow it a bit longer. You can pair it with your ball shaver if you want to have your fresh balls as well. You can use it in the shower. It's another great bit of kit from Manscaped. So Christmas is coming up. If you're looking to treat yourself, if you're looking for a gift idea to give someone else, head to manscaped.co.uk, use our code BlackBox at the checkout, get 20% off and free shipping to boot. And check out the range. You get 20% off all the products across the Manscaped store. You must be interested in that, Andy. Come on.
Well, I'm looking at it and thinking, for Christmas, obviously, quite a hairy family, so it could be quite nice for a few stocking fillers, couldn't it?
I can't imagine you clean shaven though. But it looks a bit weird. Do you look a child?
I look
like
about 12. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, same.
Like if I went into my classroom clean shaven, they wouldn't know who I was. I don't think.
No. Okay, yeah. Maybe the Chairman Pro isn't for you. If you can pull off the baby face look, unlike we can, then it might be for you.
Exactly.
But yeah. Anyway, check it out, manscaped.co.uk, and use our code BlackBox for 20% off. Before we get into game weeks and all of that stuff, I think we have to cover the big talking point of the week. And I know you've briefly spoken about it already on the Scouse cast, but it is this whole SakaGate content creator cartel. There's already comments about the cartel in the chat that I'm seeing. I mean, what's your take on SakaGate? There was a lot of last minute moves from Saka to Son to Foden, from popular people within the community. Do you think there was anything untoward going on there? We certainly didn't get any bloody news, did we?
No, I know. And I said this to you before we streamed, is that if you're getting news and not telling me, I'm not going to be very happy. So I'm pretty sure there is nothing going on behind the scenes. I think it was just a lot of good managers making a good move. Saka was not 100% going to play, and a lot of people wanted to move him on the next week anyway. And I think that's just what they did. They basically jumped on two assets that they thought could do quite well this week and had nice fixtures moving forward, which was Foden and Son. I kept Saka myself. I moved Havertz out. I kept Saka, and obviously keeping Saka meant I got Milinkovic off the bench, so it actually worked okay for me. I know,
So jammy.
A little bit, but actually, I didn't move Saka out because I knew I had Milinkovic first on the bench, and I think those people that had a good bench or a good person that could, there was less of a risk. Whereas those players that maybe didn't, I can see why they made the move. I want to move Saka out this week. It was always my plan. And if I thought he was definitely going to be out, or I thought I need to move him out to get another player in, I'd see it as a good move personally. So I do also think as well, people keep forgetting that these managers could have like 2, 3, 4 transfers in the bank at the moment. So like moving a player out like that, there's less risk, I feel, doing it when you've got lots of transfers. So I don't think there's anything going on personally. And if it is, I'm not privy to it. So I'd be very surprised. I mean, you obviously... but there's nothing going on, is there? As
my God, I mean, I'm getting called out as part of one of the people that sold him, with 20 minutes to the deadline, and you know what happened to me. I got by bloody Booner's tweet when he was impersonating that Arsenal
and who sent you that
list. And obviously in the Godfathers chat, bloody Mark Southerns shares it, and he's been caught out before like that. And I clicked on it, and my normal check is just go over. I was thinking of selling him anyway, so I was looking for any excuse. I click on the link he sends. I check the subscriber numbers, 20K. I look through the previous tweets, and they all look legit. And that's what Booner did really smartly, if you can call it that, this time, is that he kind of created a bit of a pre-Luke, because normally it's just inject emojis, and you're like, oh, okay, clearly that's Booner. This time he done the groundwork, and it completely got me. So I looked at that, transferred Saka out, went back to the group chat, and someone said, oh, that's Booner, Mark. And it was too late. And that's normally the kind of thing that catches you out. And then obviously Saka didn't play, Foden was benched, he came off and got the assist. It was a real roller coaster, Andy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But ultimately it was the right decision because I had Dibbling first sub. But yeah.
It surprised me how many people had forgotten who Booner was, because obviously he hasn't done anything for a little while. And then all of a sudden I had people in chats going, who's Booner? Who's this Booner? Why do you all know that this is fake? And as soon as there was an extra letter in the Charles Watts thing, I was like, I know this is fake. But the fact that you actually did the Saka move because of it, I thought was absolutely brilliant. And the fact Mark sent it to you as well. But you brought Foden in, so it didn't turn out that badly, did it?
No, and obviously the two players that people were bringing in were Son and Foden, and both of them got some points for the owners. And I think that's what kind of shone a bit more of a lens on it, because had they both blanks, I don't think people would care. I just think I thought all week Saka would play, and it was only when I saw the team arriving at the stadium and he wasn't in any of the pictures. And then we had the old Andy Martin thing of him going to the stadium, God. And he's all of that was just brilliant. But I was probably going to sell him this week anyway. And because it was like 50-50 at that point, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do it a week early and bring him in. And SK says, getting Booner in is a good cover story. I love that. As if I'd make that up to make myself look like that much of an idiot.
Yeah. What I love, someone else in the chat has put, we know you two aren't getting leaks because look at your ranks. It's like, if we were getting leaks, do you really think I'd be 1.7 million at the moment?
Oh, I told this story before. I told it to you earlier, but the only leak I've ever had, genuinely, was last season. Someone messaged me that I spoke to a fair bit on Twitter and said, just heard Livramento's playing like today, and he was in my team, and I had him benched, and I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna play him off the back of that. Benched. So it was complete rubbish. It's the only leak I've ever had. It is a funny one. I mean, what was interesting, I did this poll, and I just thought, there's a lot of people like Trigger Lips has done videos on it, and Alf's done videos on it, and there's lots of people calling into question like the integrity of content creators. And I just thought, out of the general Twitter lot, so this is a sample of like 2,800 people, if there was this secret WhatsApp group, this cartel group that people think there is, or some people think there is, which gets team leaks. You're allowed to be in it, but you're not allowed to ever share them. And if you ever share them, you're booted out immediately. How many people would join it? 76% said they would join that league.
I love that.
So
yeah, I know.
People give it all the high and mighty, and I think that 24%, at least half of those would still, would do it really.
Yeah, I know. And to be fair, I said to you before the stream when you showed me these results, the thing is, there are some people out there that wouldn't join it because they're already part of it. So you got to take that into account as well. But, if you offered somebody that opportunity, of course they do it. But I think as soon as you've got a certain amount of followers, and I don't know how many it is specifically, as soon as you've got a certain amount of followers, it's seen as wrong if you do get leaks and things like that. But you look at the biggest guy out there, which is Let's Talk FPL. He gets the leaks and he shares them all. Every single one he gets, he shares.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what people want, to be perfectly honest. But I think it's fine. I don't think there really is anything going on that we don't really know most of the time.
No, I think it's a shame with because Andy gets a lot of the brunt of it because he's kind of the biggest account, and people say, is he doing it for clout on his deadline streams? But Andy doesn't bill his deadline streams as being, this is where you're going to get the leaks. People turn up because he might get them, and he has a list of people that he trusts that sometimes have him those leaks before, but he always shares them with people. So I don't really know why he gets some of the stick that he does in this regard.
I don't know. I think people just attack people that they've got a big following, basically, I think. And it's unfortunate, but obviously that's where you get the most interaction sometimes. So people wouldn't be doing it if they were just shouting into the void. They want to make sure people interact back with them. And that's obviously what they want half the time, I guess, which that's what Twitter is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not been the best place over the last week or so. Hopefully it starts to pick up a bit and we can start having some nice chats again, but yeah, it's not been the best place. Anyway, let's talk some FPL stuff. Just quickly cover my team this week. It was a bit of a disaster. 33 points. I'm sure a lot of people can sympathize with that. Raya, Trent, Gabriel, Lewis and Davis all blanked in defense. Foden came in, he got the assist from the corner in the 90th minute, 4 points. Mbumo 2. Rodgers actually came in last minute for Dibbling, who I'd been saying I was going to play all week, and then I just suddenly went, why am I playing a Southampton player? Let's just get Rodgers back in. So Rodgers got the goal. Booked again though. It always seems to get booked when he scores, which is annoying.
Yeah.
Haaland with 4. Watkins did well for me with 8, and Solanke's been really disappointing with 2. And I benched Moreno, who got 6 on my bench. He would have been quite a nice differential, but yeah, a bit of a meh game week. Probably best we just move on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, let's just move on from this one.
We can move on to Mr. Mark Sutton's team. Actually managed to have a worse than me. He got 26. I think Flecken was Rodgers was his highest scorer, but Flecken was up there with 4. Trent Saliba with -3. Lewis with 2. Gabriel with 1. Semenyo, Rodgers, and Mbumo, Foden, Haaland, Solanke. So a pretty similar team to mine, but obviously had Saliba with -3. What did you make of the Saliba red card? How do you think that's going to affect Arsenal going forward?
I think it is. I think on Scoutcast the other day, we did a little bit of analysis on Arsenal, and it shows that they are already conceding more chances than they were most of last season, and they're not putting up as much XG. I think the Odegaard injury is a massive difference. I think he is such a controller of the ball in their midfield, and I think these have been a massive miss. I do also think they've played a lot of their games with 10 men, which obviously hasn't helped their XGC this season either. And their disciplinary record is shocking compared to the rest of the season. It's compared to the rest of the teams. I don't know what's happened. Like, they wanted them to be kind of tougher, and they're doing that by getting red cards all the time, which obviously isn't great for their assets. Yeah. And Saliba managers, the people that went Saliba and Gabriel or Saliba and Raya and went for that double Arsenal defence have been punished quite brutally, to be perfectly honest. And -3 from Saliba is that is brutal. So yeah, I think it is going to affect. I think he's only going to miss 1 game, isn't he? But I think Arsenal double defense, especially with their fixtures moving forward, I think I'd be moving off one personally. And when you got a player like, say, Aït-Nouri or someone like that who could be good, especially from next week onwards, I think I'd probably make the move myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 1-match ban. The commentators on the match definitely said it was a 3-match ban. And I went back and listened to it again, and they said 3 matches. But it's not violent play, right? So it's just a 1 match. Just
believe
one
so.
match. That's
Yeah.
how I thought it was.
Yeah.
Just one game. Yeah, fine. So he's back for Newcastle and Chelsea, but obviously misses the Liverpool game. So yeah, not ideal for Mark. He's already made a couple of transfers. I'll talk about those in a bit. Your team, though, absolutely flying, 40 points.
Oh, coming up trumps, mate. It wasn't looking that good. I had Rodgers as well, who didn't do too badly. I was absolutely gutted. Solanke got nothing. I was out in town when it was happening. Every goal that went in, I was thinking Solanke's got to be involved, and every time he wasn't involved, so I was absolutely gutted about that.
Yeah,
but the big one was that those Forest players on the Monday night, and obviously having Wood, who could have had a hat trick. Like, he looked good again. Like, he hit the post.
Yep.
He had a few sitters that he missed, and then Milinkovic as well. Milinkovic, who I got in on wildcard, and I was kind of eyeing up some of these nice fixtures. Palace, we were talking before, and we put Sells in our Strictly Come Captaining selections. Palace, honestly, all they do is just pepper goalkeepers from outside the box, and they can't finish to save their lives. So that any keeper against them, it looks absolutely brilliant to play him. And obviously, Sells got an 11 pointer in the end. So the people that were waiting on, say, a Sells and a Wood for Monday night, got helped themselves to 18 points. But yeah, they saved me massively. So I was on about a 500k red arrow until Monday night, and then I ended up getting a green arrow of about 100k. So yeah, I will very much take it.
Can you remember the last time a Monday night game actually delivered for people?
It's been a while. It has been a while. It used to quite a lot. I swear, the one that sticks in my mind, I'm pretty sure Hazard played against West Ham, and got a brace or a hat trick or something, wasn't it? And he absolutely killed it on a Monday night. I remember that quite vividly. But if that's the last one I remember, then that says a lot.
That's about 8 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
7 or 8 years ago.
That was
normally
great,
it's like you've got 1 or 2 players left on the Monday night, and you think, right, they can save my game week. They can really do something for me. And then you watch the clean sheet get wiped out after like 10 minutes, and then your player gets subbed at 65, and you're like, brilliant, I'll get up my whole Monday night for this. But that was a good one for Forest, owners. It went well. Are you playing Milinkovic this week against Leicester?
I'm not. He's first on my bench, I think, or second on my bench. I can't actually remember now. But yeah, he's not in my team currently.
Okay, I've got Moreno, so he is in my team at the moment. This is the great and the good. Obviously, you've been added to this after not usurping. What's the word? Beating Greyhead last year. That was the punishment that he faced. You coming into this. I'm top of the 3 of us somehow. 785k, which puts me 4th, which is pretty surprising. Just below Praz, 1 point behind Praz. 7 points behind Harry, who had an awful week again with 26. Praz and Harry both Praz, Harry, and Mark all with 26. Pretty remarkable. Ben Crellin, though, 54 points with his Son captain.
Thing is, we're looking at him as smashing it, and he's only 300k. Like, there are other people out there that are like already in the top 100k. Like Hibbo is obviously around the 100k mark, and I think it's absolutely mad that I feel like he's played really well recently, Ben. But like I said, he's only 300k. I expected him to be way more than that, and that's after a almost 350k green arrow. So, yeah, it's been tough so far in this league, I would say. And I looked at my overall rank and thought, God, I'm going to be bottom half of this easily. So to be top half, I think it says a lot about the kind of start of the season. But we got to remember as well that it's very rare that we've had triple captain be played quite as much as it has been so far. And obviously that's been played a lot. So maybe that's a little bit to be taken into account, because all those that played Haaland obviously got 17 extra points. So maybe that's skewing things a little bit. But yeah, it's been tough. 300k being the top and most of us over 1 mil is not usual.
Yeah, I think it's been the relentless form of Salah as well. I think, quite a few people didn't start with him at the beginning, like myself. A lot of people sold him on wildcards in maybe game week 5 or 6, and he's carried on doing really well. 2 double-digit hauls in his last couple of game weeks. So, yeah, if you had Salah, you've been doing well. Blort says it's the bad and the worse. That's a good name. Pretty much good name for this league. I have to say, Seb is really struggling. He's down at 4.8 million. Obviously not doing the scout cast review this season, and just seems to love banking those transfers.
That's what does it. That's what does it. See, you leave the scout cast and it all goes to pot. No, he's I think I saw his team value is like 99.5 as well. Like, he's really, like you said, he's kept hold of those transfers, and I don't think it's helped him yet. But I'm hoping that he kind of has a couple good weeks and he starts storming on up. But he's only just under 50 points behind me, and that's 3 million rank. So he'll make that up, I would have thought.
Yeah, there's really not much in it between a really good rank, a respectable rank, and even a poor rank at this stage. So yeah, don't panic. Don't panic too much. Let's take a look at some stats. This is team data defense. Liverpool are at the top of this. They have I think we all know that they're the best defense, given from what we've seen, which is obviously one of the major things that Slot has brought in his kind of brief tenure. Villa are second. Interestingly enough, not really a team that I trust particularly, but an XG non-penalty United 0.89, is good. Obviously, quite tough fixtures to come. Let's talk about Man City though. I mean, I've got Lewis. Every week they just seem to concede. It's really frustrating.
Yeah,
I find with this team data defense stuff that like. You've got Liverpool there. Okay, they seem like the best defense at the moment. But is there any other defense that you trust at the moment?
I mean, funnily enough, Forest was one that a lot of us, kind of put a bit of money into because their data did look good, and obviously they got the cheap options. Lewis, at least he's cheap. Like, we're not paying for Gvardiol or someone like that, although he's obviously turned into prime Roberto Carlos at the weekend. But I do think Forest. I do think Forest are good. Liverpool's an interesting one for me. Still, they do look really good, but their fixture run has been the best it could possibly be, really, up until now. So the fact that their fixtures are changing now, if they start keeping clean sheets and having this good of data against teams like Arsenal, Villa, City, then we can start really taking them seriously. But there's not a lot. I mean, I was thinking about this with goalkeepers. There's not a lot of goalkeepers I fancy moving forward either. But there's an awful lot of fixtures that are changing soon. So if you've got those high upside defenders like an Nori or something like that, I've already mentioned them anyway, their fixtures change, dramatically moving forward. Brentford's are looking really good moving forward. Brighton's look good after a while. Like, all of a sudden you're looking at a few different teams, and it's just based on fixtures, really. But I think Forest and Liverpool look the two best defenses I've seen so far. Villa's interesting though, because I thought Villa might struggle with their whole, playing in Europe this year, but they've killed it in Europe, and they seem to not be having too much of a hangover after the games either. So fair play to them. It's Arsenal's the biggest one for me. It has been a bit of a drop off, but do you think a lot of that is because of the red cards, or do you think something quite dramatic's changed this year?
Yeah, well, I think it doesn't help, does it? When you've had 3 red cards in 8 games, it's going to skew the statistics a bit. I mean, against Leicester, it was just 2 freak, worldy goals from James Justin. Not much you can do about that. I wonder if, and James made this point last week, that maybe they do switch off a little bit against some of the teams they kind of expect to beat, because they've got so much of the ball, because they're so in control. If you're 2-0 up, maybe do just take your eye off the prize a little bit. And I think we saw that in the first game against Wolves. Wolves should have scored in that match. Villa was a tough game next, but again, I think Watkins missed an absolute sitter in that game. So yeah, I don't think it's really surprising that maybe they haven't hit the heights that we thought, given that kind of start. But at the same time, no clean sheets against Leicester, Southampton, and Bournemouth.
I know
is a concern, especially when you go into the run that they're going on to now with Liverpool, Newcastle, and then Chelsea. Are you doubled up? Are you doubled up on Arsenal defence?
I'm not. So I was going to, and then we weren't sure whether Rye was going to play. So I brought Fleck in and went with Havertz. Havertz got me 2 goals in 2 weeks, so I was quite happy with that. And now I've moved on from Havertz to Solanke. So no, I wasn't. And I think those people that went for double Arsenal defence, it was the floor play. It was I'm expecting some clean sheets in this run, which was a good decision. But it's, like I said, it's been paid off in the worst way, really, especially with the Saliba red card kind of, really rounding it off for a lot of managers there. So I do think we've got to look at the data we're seeing at the moment and think that Arsenal aren't the elite defence we thought they were. But Liverpool's the one that's most interesting to me in terms of maybe not a Trent, because obviously he's expensive and we've got to try and get those premium mids. But when you've got players like Konate who look good, and Kelleher, who could potentially be in goal until December with reports that are coming out, like, they're not the worst players to potentially to invest in. But I do want to see how they get on against an Arsenal and a Villa and a City in the next 5.
Yeah, I mean, I am doubled up on Arsenal. I've got Gabriel benched this week because obviously I can't bench Raya because I haven't got a backup. Obviously, benching Gabriel is a risky move given his threat from set pieces. But I do wonder if we are going to see people pivoting to a double Liverpool defense, because I know obviously there's Jota, there's Diaz, there's Salah, there's Trent, there are decent picks there, but if you're not going for Salah, I can see why people aren't going for one of Jota or Diaz, given the fact that they get benched and there's kind of rotation around that. Obviously, Jota's now got this little injury, so I wonder if maybe it's Trent, Konate, and then you leave the third spot open for Salah. I wonder if we're going to see people doing that when the fixtures turn.
I'd be very surprised. I'd be really, really surprised if people went double Liverpool. I mean, I'd be surprised if people are even got one at the moment, unless it's Trent. And even then, the majority of people I know that have Trent are thinking of selling him, because he's just that cash cow that you need to move to those premium mids. So I'd be very surprised. I mean, the fixtures I wouldn't say are really there. The Brighton game's not too bad, but Brighton can attack. So I'm looking at those fixtures and thinking, I don't think now is the time to be moving to it. From 15 onwards, yeah, there's a case for it, but I would be very, very surprised. I think people are going to be moving off defence quite quickly, and they're going to be pumping their money into midfield, because that's where it all is. And we're going to get to a time from kind of 12 onwards when we're wanting Saka, we're wanting Son, we're wanting Foden, Palmer, we're wanting, although Haaland still potentially. And I think I just don't see it personally. I think we're kind of going back into the old days of make your defence as cheap as possible and pump everything into midfield and strikers, which it did, wouldn't it? That's exactly what it used to be. 4.5 million defenders across the board. So we'll see.
Think
but then
Trent
those
is
people
going to
that do
be...
have Trent.
Well, this is what I mean. Do you think Trent's going to be the sacrifice for this?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just too easy a sacrifice to make in terms of you free up like 3 million by moving down from him. And I think that's the biggest thing that people are going to do. And when you've got players, like I said, like Nori or, I don't know, Mikolenko that you can move down to, and they got nice fixtures, I think people will do it.
Yeah. Other end of the table, the obvious ones, Ipswich are bottom. I think no surprises there. Southampton and then Leicester, all in and around 2 expected goals conceded every game. Clearly the teams to target. Interesting, Chelsea down in 17th. Yeah. I knew their defence had been bad, but it has been really bad according to the stats.
Yeah, it's interesting, that one. I mean, the 3 at the bottom are the 3 you'd expect, and obviously we've got some players with nice fixtures against them this week in Brentford, and we've got Man City obviously as well. Chelsea is an interesting one, and actually I think a lot of people didn't go for Sanchez because they thought he was going to lose his place, but I don't hate the idea of Sanchez because they do concede a little bit of XGC, if that makes sense. But I would love to see how much what's that stat? Was it XG prevented or something, isn't it? XGC prevented for keepers. I'd love to see where he is on that, because he always looks like he's got a clanger in him. But
Andy, let me get that up for you right now. There you go.
Look at this.
There you go. Actually, is it? Oh, XGP, is there? It's 1.
He's 4th,
so it's not great. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's 4 for points per 90. One ranks about one of the lowest on show. I think Raya and Leno actually are the 2 lowest. And Pickford actually. Pickford at 2.3, Leno at 2.4.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting. Obviously, the 2 Liverpool boys being top. If we find out Alisson is out for a little bit longer, Kelleher is going to be extremely popular. But yeah, Onana is always going to be up there because we concede so many chances as well. Yeah. But no, I was interested to see where Sanchez was on this, but I don't think that it's tough with Chelsea because the fixtures aren't there for quite a while, are they? Really, you'd be looking to move in maybe 12 or 13. And again, if you've got a keeper that's doing fine, you're not going to be moving for one, are you?
No, I mean just to kind of reiterate what this chart's showing. So expected goal prevented just basically indicates how I think it's the best metric of how well a goalkeeper's been performing this season. You can see Hermansen is there at the top at 4.6. He's basically prevented nearly 5 goals with some of the saves that he's made. Pope there at 3.1. Onana has had a great start to the season at 3.3. You wouldn't expect to see Raya in the minus, so he's actually let in more goals than he should have done. Given what we've seen from the Champions League when he's saving penalties and rebounds and all that kind of thing, it's you wouldn't expect to see it kind of reversed. Alisson at 2.7, So yeah, there's been some keepers that have had strong starts to the season, basically.
Very, very, very interesting though that Flecken's bottom. Well, not bottom, but he's bottom of this list and minus 1.70. But he's got more save points than anybody else this season, hasn't he?
Yep, he's made 42 saves, and next best is Pope with. Oh no, next best is Hermansen with 40, and then it's Pope with 35.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting. But obviously Flecken's also got the fixtures coming up. You know, Ipswich, Bournemouth, Leicester at home, and he's got 2 nice away fixtures. You'd be hoping for something in that run, I would have thought.
Yep. Let's look at some attacking data. Don't know if you like me. I think I probably trust the attacking data more than I trust the defensive data, especially when you see teams like City and Villa at the top. When what I see is teams that can sort of play quite well against them. Apart from obviously in the Champions League, where they're doing really well. Spurs are a topic that we're going to talk about a bit more in this episode. I've got a table on some of their assets, and they are top of XG non-penalty per 90. Expected to score 2 goals a game. With Chelsea second, 1.86, and Man City just off that 1.85. But Spurs players, we've both got Solanke. How are you feeling about? How are you feeling about that?
I mean, he's going to be in and around the attack. The thing that is really interesting at the moment, and I was listening to the Above Average pod, and they were saying the same thing, is that he seems to be doing that Firmino role, like Firmino used to do for Liverpool, where he does a lot of the work to make sure that the wingers obviously get what they need to do. And Maddison, Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson, Son seem to be thriving because they've got that striker up front. And you think they've had Timo Werner, Richarlison and people like that for a little while since Kane's left. And I think it is what they've needed. They've needed that player that's a bit selfless and will do that. Not great for FPL. Nobody ever really picked Firmino. He did have those weeks where he did really well. I think Solanke will still be fine. But I think if you've got Solanke and he's your only attacking Spurs asset, I think you probably want to try and get another one, especially for this little run that they've got as well. And the fact that in 11 and 13, they've got 2 captainable fixtures. My biggest thing is, which one do you go for? Because I think if you were in a vacuum...
setting me up so perfectly for these.
I know. Because, look at this, because Son is the one that seems to be the explosive player that we've had in FPL before, and he's the one that can hit those heights and get you the braces, hat tricks, whatever it's going to be. Brennan Johnson seems to be getting a ridiculous amount of chances inside the box and touches inside the box, which it shows here. But I've got such a soft spot for Kulusevski. Like I think he's creating so well at the moment, but is he captainable? I don't think he is. So all roads kind of lead to Son. Maddison, the big thing this week was that he got taken off at halftime. He was playing really well, but they needed to change things, and he was the one that went. So I think all roads lead to Son, personally, unless you need a cheaper option. And then I think you probably just go Brennan because the value's there.
Interesting. I think all roads lead to Brennan with this.
Do you?
I mean, touches in the box, 64 for Brennan Johnson. Interesting. Kulusevski isn't far off that with 62. Yeah. So, having like 10 touches in the box a match, essentially. I haven't fact checked this. Mark Southern sent me. He did also send me Booner's tweet, so take it with a pinch of salt. But he told me Brennan's touches in the box is identical to Haaland's in terms of per 90. So you think about Haaland's position, his average position, and where he just stands. Well, Johnson is getting that many touches in the box from out wide.
I know. I mean, Brennan looks nailed now, doesn't he? I think he's going to be playing every game for them moving forward. Kulusevski, I think, is as well. Son, we've been told by Ange already that he's going to be managed this season. He can't be playing every single game 90 minutes. He's got to be managed a bit more. So you would think that Richarlison, Werner are going to be coming on for Son, and maybe Werner coming on for Solanke. So that Kulusevski role, I think between Kulusevski and Brennan, I think they're fine, and they're obviously an awful lot cheaper as well. I do have a soft spot for Kulusevski, but I just think Son is there, and he's the one you'd want to captain in 11 and 13. Would you captain Brennan Johnson in 11 or 13 against Ipswich or Fulham?
No, I wouldn't. But I'm not really looking at alternative captains other than Haaland at the moment. I think if Haaland wasn't in the picture, it might be a bit different. Who's Haaland got who's City got in 13? Is that the Brighton game?
City have Liverpool away.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you probably do need an extra captain. Let's get the ticker up. Hang Yeah, so in 13, City have Liverpool. Obviously, you've got that great Spurs game against Fulham. I'm looking at Chelsea. Chelsea with Villa at home. That's not too bad either. Arsenal with West Ham away. I don't know. Would I rather have Son than Saka or Palmer? That's the thing that I keep coming back to. I just don't think I would.
Yeah, Saka's the one, because I think Saka, by the time you get to 12, if he's fit again, which will most likely happen, you're looking at Saka in 12 back, because you're going to want to be getting on some of those Arsenal assets again, potentially. But I mean, Palmer, if you don't own Palmer now, when do you think is the entry point? When do you think I need to get him back in for that game? Is it the Leicester one in 12?
You have to get him in 12, don't you?
So if you're getting him in 12, and you need Son for 13 because he looks the best captaincy option, or a Spurs, how are you going to own all these players by 12?
I don't think Son. I don't think Son is needed. I've said this from the start of the season. It's probably going to come back and bite me when Son's ends up as the top scorer in FPL or something like that. But if I'm looking at Son compared to Saka, Palmer, Salah, Haaland, he's the fifth one for me out of those. He's the one that I'm picking last. And the Fulham game it's not like Southampton at home or Ipswich at home.
Yeah.
You know, he's got him in 11, but then Haaland has Brighton, where he will get chances against us, believe me. So do I need to get Son for Fulham at home when Palmer's got Villa at home? I don't mind that for Palmer, and then Palmer's got Ipswich and Southampton either side. I think Palmer's got to be a must-own from 12, isn't he?
Yeah, the more you look at it as well, he's obviously in 12, he's got Leicester, in 14, he's got Southampton. The big thing for me with Palmer now is like, and I mentioned this on Scoutcast about 5 weeks ago, is that he's one of the only players that can go really big anymore. Like, I don't really, when you look at other players and you think Haaland obviously can, Salah still has it in him, but he's slowed down a little bit compared to what he used to be. Saka doesn't massively go big. I know he has once or twice, but you wouldn't expect it in a game week. Whereas Palmer, against the right opposition, just goes mental. And he's not playing in Europe. I just think when you're looking at those fixtures, it's not like you have to look and say, yeah, but he might play midweek. He's not going to. So I feel like Palmer from 12 is, a must-have, really. So it's just when the rest of them come in. But like you just said, if you swerve Son and you go for a Kulusevski or a Brennan Johnson, it means you can get on a Saka and a Palmer quite easily in 12.
I guess the alternative is, I mean, you've got Johnson compared to Son. There's about 3 million saving there. You could go Jackson over Palmer. There's going to be a 4 million saving there. No,
no. Let's stop now.
You could, or you go Havertz over Saka, right? And that's your 1.5 million saving. I mean, I was going to ask you which of those you think is actually a decent trade off. I'm guessing it's not Jackson.
It's not either. I don't think I want either over them. Has Az gone? Hello? Is it just me? What's happened? Has Az disappeared? I have no idea whether it's just me. Hello? I'm assuming this is just me. I'm waiting for him to come back in. R.I.P. Az. Just you, Andy. Cartel got him. He mentioned too much. Oh, he's back again.
Do you know what? This is one good thing, though, about StreamYard is awful, is what I've learned from this. This whole experience has been not because of you, because we're having to wait. We have to pause between each bloody thing so we can speak.
They were just talking to me. It was lovely.
But at least one of us can leave and come back in. It doesn't kill the whole stream.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying, if we are looking to save some money, like where can you go? I mean, Foden to Haaland's the other one, isn't it? Do you ever think Foden is going to be a replacement for him?
No, not at the moment. No, and I mean, we talked to Luke quite a bit, and he's saying we don't see a time at the moment where Foden's going to be nailed on, because he's not going to play him on the wings. and that midfield three with Gundogan is obviously where he wants to go, and he seems really scared of teams playing in a counter-attack. So it doesn't look like there's going to be a fixture where you can say Foden's definitely going to play, even this week. And I don't think Foden's a good buy this week, because a lot of people with Foden are probably going to be moving off him in a couple of weeks. So it's tough, and it's a shame because you want them, but I don't really feel like there's, over a longer period of time, I don't feel like you can compromise on Saka, Palmer, and Haaland. I just don't think you can. Whereas Son could be one you compromise on. But yeah, the others, I just don't think they are. And of course, they're all on penalties as well, which is such a major factor too.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Foden probably until game week 12, and then I'm probably going to be losing him for Palmer in some way. Losing Foden before Spurs at home though doesn't feel amazingly, amazingly good if he plays. But that's the thing. I mean, do you think that's going to be a case all season? Do you think Foden's going to be a doubt all season, or do you reckon he's eventually going to be straight? He's going to be number one.
It's a shame. I think he is. I thought with KDB being out, I thought that kind of nailed him on. But I think with Rodri being out and Gundogan coming in, and the fact that he's quite scared of that midfield not really being secure enough against teams, he seems to keep picking Gundogan, who I don't think has been great since he's come back either. And I think it just means that Foden ends up being the player that doesn't play. And what's his name? Savio was great at the last night, and so was Mateus Nunes as well. And I just think Foden's being turned into a little bit of a scapegoat and kind of not getting the minutes that we're expecting. And coupled with the fact that he's had a bit of an injury too, it's meant that, unfortunately, one of those kind of explosive players from last year, we're now having second doubts about. And it's not like we haven't got other options. Like I said, you've got Saka, Palmer, Son, and that's just naming three of them. And then you've also got players like Mbumo. So all of a sudden, it just becomes Foden is a bit more dispensable this season than he was last season.
It's got kind of Mahrez vibes, hasn't it? Like when we all kind of thought Mahrez was going to be first name on the team sheet when he'd been playing really well.
Yeah,
and
I know. Yeah,
literally week after week after week, he gets benched. I mean, Mahrez never won Player of the Season like Foden did last year, and it does seem surprising that he's potentially going that way. But he has had history with Pep before. Last season was the blip for Foden, really, because he played pretty much every game before that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, no, I know. And to be honest, I thought that was it then. But I think things have changed. I think the Rodri injury did shake them quite a lot as well. To lose him for the whole season, I think is massive for them. And I just think I've always said, obviously with Foden last year, he was playing every game, so it was absolutely fine. And when Haaland didn't play or De Bruyne didn't play, he was another focal point, which is awesome as well. But I just think this year he's turned into a player that we're having doubts about every week, and you don't want to invest in too many players you're having doubts about every week. And like I said, there's alternatives. So yeah, I'll be getting rid of him for Palmer most likely. Yeah, not this week, obviously. It'd be in 12.
Yeah, so we're all saying that because Mark's in the chat with us, and he's saying he doesn't feel confident about Foden and kind of regrets buying him and wants to move elsewhere. All three of us have got him, and we're all feeling this kind of same way.
And remember as well, we've got Foden and Lewis. So it's every week you're thinking, if both of those are benched, like that's a massive hit to your team, and the upside hasn't been there yet. So that's the other issue. But hopefully when he does play, and if he plays this week, we could be absolutely loving life. And obviously he scored in Champions League as well. So we'll see what happens. But he's not as certain as he was last year, that's for sure.
Yeah. We got a little bit sidetracked. Just to come back to the Spurs assets table, I saw a question asking us to kind of rank these in order, just for the podcast listeners. Son comes out top in terms of points per 90 at 7.1, and he's mentioned Kulusevski's assist potential. He's the highest on show out of Son, Brennan, Kulusevski, Madison, and Solanke, 3.4 pretty much. Brennan's the one who's getting those shots away, getting the shots in the box. He's having those touches all in the area as well. Solanke is having the best chances. So if you look at XG per shot non-penalty, 0.26, that's the highest. So when he is getting an opportunity, it's the highest XG shot, and he has had the most big chances as well with 8 compared to Brennan's 6. So Solanke is still there. I mean, I'm not, like you said, when I watch him, I'm kind of not that impressed, but the stats don't make me think he's an awful option. I just think Brennan is probably the one if you offered me the swap for free, I think I'd probably take you up on it.
Yeah, it's really interesting that though. Like Solanke, I think is fine because he's obviously that striker position. And when you're looking at strikers, I think Haaland, Solanke, Wood seems to be the ideal 3 at the moment in terms of fixtures looking forward and form and things like that. But that midfield slot, I think, is actually quite tough. Son, it's basically I'm fighting in the back of my head with keep it simple, and simple is Son because I can afford Son, and that's just keeping it simple. He's the goal scorer, but I do think Brennan and Kulusevski at that discount, it can't be ignored, basically. And I do get what you're saying with Brennan Johnson. I've just got this thing in my head that Brennan Johnson is going to revert to type soon. Whereas Kulusevski, I've owned Kulusevski before and he's done well. But again, he's got his issues where he's not really a goal scorer. So I think I'll probably end up with Son, but Kulu's the one in the back of my head. But are you going to Brennan this week? Or is this just the one you'd pick if you could?
No, I'm not actually.
Yeah.
My transfer. Well, I should be interested to get your take on my transfer because I'm doing these match of the day notes on Twitter, and the reason for that is I want to give myself a reason to watch match of the day because I didn't watch it religiously last year, and I had my worst ever season. And I think I was watching a lot of live football, but I think sometimes it's nice to get a bit more of a broader overview of what's going on. And I think match day is really helpful because obviously they break down the tactics and you see, players that you might not otherwise have seen or mentioned. And I have to say the player that I've been really impressed with for a little while, and particularly I thought against Brentford, was your mate Garnacho.
Ooh.
Your boy. I thought he was unbelievable. I think he had 8 shots in that game. Against Brentford, I just think he's taken it a bit personally, being benched in those first few matches, and there's always question marks around Manchester United and whether Ten Hag can get them, playing any brand of football that doesn't rely on kind of individual brilliance. But he is a hell of a player, isn't he, Garnacho? And the fixtures, I mean, again, we're going to come back to the fixtures graphic, but the next 5 for Manchester United: West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester, Ipswich, Everton. 4 of those 5 games against 4 of the weakest teams in the league.
Well, 5 if you include Chelsea's.
Well, looking at the defensive data,
4th for XGC.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So, there's been so many false dawns with United, and it happens every season. Every season we got, hang on, they've started looking good again. I will say that front 3 of Rashford, Garnacho, and Haaland did look really, really good. And I think Haaland is the one that we've missed because Xerxes not that type of player.
Yeah,
I do think that looked really, really good. Bruno, that assist was absolutely beautiful, by the way. And if anybody else did that, we'd be talking about it for ages. But I do think Garnacho would be the one to own, especially if he continues to play on the left. And I think for the fixtures we've got coming up, especially after this week, I think West Ham's fine. But the fact that we've then got Leicester at home, Everton at home, and we got Ipswich away, I think they are investable in. But it's who are you buying him instead of? And if you're buying him instead of a Spurs asset, I don't think I'd do that. I think I'd want a piece of that Spurs pie, basically. And then I think you could probably wait until 11, basically, because I don't think you'd invest ahead of Chelsea. Even though their XGC is so low, I don't think you would. So I think you'd probably be waiting until 11. But from 11 onwards, I think a Garnacho is not that bad. We could even see a Rashford resurgence, which, he was about 80% owned at one point after COVID, wasn't he? So, I'm used to this with United. There's been so many false dawns, and you think you're getting in there early and you just end up going at the wrong time. So, yeah. But Garnacho would be the one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've already got Solanke. I mean, I could double up on it. As a spoiler, I mean, that's what Mark's doing. He's got Solanke. He's already moved for Johnson. He's going one step further and buying a player we haven't even mentioned from Spurs, which is Porro as well. Actually bringing in Porro. Yeah, bringing in Porro this week. So he's going really hard on Spurs. I think I'm gonna pivot away from it and have a bit of a punt on Garnacho. I had him last season. I kind of feel like he owes me. I benched him for 2 braces last season.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, which
again, he was cheap as chips last year, wasn't he?
He was. He's 5 million? I think I got him at 4.9, something like that. And again, it's really stupid. But playing a 4.9 asset feels rough. Playing a 6.2 asset feels a bit better, even though it's the same player. It's just kind of how FPL works. This is a new graph chart that Mark's put together. This is game week 9 XGI, of course, game week 8 XGI. So this is XGI just for the game week, and I think again this goes quite nicely with like talking about match of the day and highlights and what you see from kind of individual game weeks. Obviously, we look at the stats, we look at like a long-term view, and last 6 game weeks is typically what we look at. But also, can be quite interesting to see who are the kind of the top performers in individual game week. I mentioned Garnacho's shots. He's not in the top 30 that I could see for XGI non-penalty. So they weren't exactly great chances, but he was having a lot of them. Buonanotte, though, I wanted to talk about, playing for Leicester. He's at the top of this 1.5. I was really impressed with him this week. Haven't been since he signed for Leicester. He's looked all right for Brighton when I've seen him play. He's come with a big reputation. I think Tevez said he was going to be the next Lionel Messi, which is a little bit of hype to live up to. Hasn't really delivered. I don't think Brighton ever really knew what his best position was. Tried to put him on the right. Hasn't really got the pace for that. We had a lot of players who could play in the 10. But yeah, really delivering at Leicester. Yeah, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I don't hate him at all. I think he's playing all right. I think Leicester fixtures, well, they got Forest, not great potentially, but then Ipswich, and then from 13 onwards, it looks a little bit rosier. So I don't hate him as a pick. I play so rare. I've got him in that, and he's absolutely killed it in that in the last couple of weeks. So I'm very happy there. It's just, I think we've got other players that are cheap options to say, like, are you basically going to go with a Buonanotte or are you going to go with a Rodgers? I think is the comparison, because you're not going to want more than one midfielder at 5 million. And obviously Rodgers has been the absolute bargain so far this season. And I think, stop it.
I'm not totally sure about that. I think
really?
You can. Well, I mean, we look at some of the players on this list at midfielders around 5 million. So you've got Buonanotte. Okay, he's probably not too many people going there, but I think he's a decent option. Semenyo is on here at 5.6. Two rough games.
Fixtures aren't there? Yeah, exactly.
2 rough games, but you get through those, and then it's a decent run. Do you think Smith Rowe is now just not a consideration for us at Fulham?
I mentioned that. So on Scoutcast 2 weeks ago, Hibbo and Nacho were saying, "Oh, Smith Rowe's still a good," and I was thinking, I don't know whether he is anymore. I would much rather have a Rodgers over him. I'd much rather have a Buonanotte potentially, although, like I said, the fixtures maybe aren't there enough for me. But I still think Rodgers is the one. If I was wildcarding, Rodgers would be on it, 100%.
And then you've got Patrick Floor saying no McNeil. I think McNeil's an option at 5.6 with the fixtures they've got.
I love McNeil. Yeah.
AB, Rutter at Brighton.
Yeah, is Welbeck still out?
Well, Herzl has said that it sounded really painful. He said he'd like knocked a nerve in his back or something like that, and he was still in quite a lot of pain. I'd be very, very surprised if he started against Wolves. Ferguson played 60 minutes. I'm not sure if he's got a bit of a knock as well, but it could be Rutter up front. If Ferguson and Welbeck are both out, we might see Rutter up top. I'm not sure who'll then play at the 10. Maybe Gruder comes in at 10, or they push like a Belaber up to that role. But I think Rutter's looking like, we paid 40 million for him. It raised a lot of eyebrows. He's looking like a good player for us.
Do you know the one player I'm going to mention, and this is my differential, I think he's like 0.3% owned, is Damsgaard for Brentford.
Yep.
He's on set pieces. He's looked good. He's got 3 assists in his last 2 games. I think he's someone, especially with their fixtures coming up as well. What they got, Ipswich, Bournemouth, Leicester all at home. You're going to be wanting to play him potentially. I think if you could have a double up with him and Mbumo, and then have those 3 premiums, I quite like that. So Damsgaard's my little one. He's not actually on this, is he? But he's one that I'm going to tip moving forward.
Okay. Well, in the sleeper draft, the Wire have got Damsgaard. And I know Zofar was talking him up on the video they did today. So I think they probably agree with you on that. 2 more players I wanted to mention on this list. I mean, one of them you own already, Chris Wood, 0.91, 7 points for him. Jimenez, Raul Jimenez, 5.7 million. Next year on penalty of 0.74. If we jump ahead and we come to the forwards table, both are... where are they on this list? So Wood
is 17th.
I saw them earlier. Wood is 17th, and Jimenez I don't think is. Jimenez is 8th on this list. 0.63 for him, and Wood at 0.39. I mean, Wood's expected goal per 90 is pretty low, isn't it? At 0.39. That's the first thing that I saw. I mean, 78% accuracy and 31% conversion. Surely that's not sustainable. Surely.
I think he looked good. He could have got more on Monday night. I genuinely, I think he is such a good option. If I was wildcarding this week, I am almost certain I would have Chris Wood in my team. If I was wildcarding after this week, I might move to somebody else, maybe like a Cunha or a Larson, because I think they might start coming into teams with Wolves' fixtures obviously changing. And I think there's going to be a bit of an uptick there. But I think Wood's fine. I feel like if you've got Wood now, Wahi. If you've got Wood now, you're going to keep him, and you're going to be more than happy with the fact that you've got him. But if you don't, he is going to be the player that you do not move to every week, and he's just going to keep it. There's always a striker like this. Always a striker, I swear, every season that does this. And he's just going to be that one where people are like, no, he won't carry it on, and he'll just keep plodding away, I reckon.
It's funny with him, isn't it? Because at the start of the season, everyone's saying not only is he not going to do that well, but he's not going to play because Aranai is going to come back and take his place. That has just been put completely to bed. Nuno really likes him. I think he really likes what he brings to the side, and he's almost built the. I mean, it's a pretty exciting attack with Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, and Elanga, but it's all
Anderson.
about Anderson was unreal.
Yeah.
Absolutely unreal. So it's like a Man City light, instead of Haaland up top, they've got Chris Wood.
Christ. Is this just you trying to bring Mark back next week, saying all the lovely things about him?
Wood has been Mark has got it wrong about Wood. He was pretty anti him in the start of the season, and I think he always thought that Tyler would eventually come back and take him, but hasn't done so. I realize we're on borrowed time with you now. We're 6 minutes past 8. You've got a Tesco delivery arriving any minute.
It will be coming any minute, mate.
A bit of a concern.
I know it's like this. It's all the chat can talk about, but it will be here in a minute. I would have thought.
Well, before let's there's still some stuff that I can cover. Obviously, I can carry on when you're gone. But let's jump ahead quickly just to your team for the week in case you do have to jump out. I'm sure people will be desperate to know what your plans are. Well, they can watch them on the Scoutcast. I doubt they've changed too much. But this is your team. Read it out for the podcast listeners and tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, so I got Flecken in goal, Ipswich at home, Gabriel, Pedro Porro, Rico Lewis, Foden, and Mbumo, Rogers, Saka, who is yellow flagged at the moment, and then Solanke, Haaland, and Wood up top with Haaland as my captain. Milinkovic, first on my bench, Semenyo and Greaves. Don't know where that injury came from, but Greaves is out for about 4 weeks, unfortunately. And Valdemarsen's my keeper on the bench. I am pretty happy with this team this week. I think this team looks fine this week. I've already got that triple up with City. I've got double up with Brentford, which is in Mbumo and Flecken, but it's a pretty good fixture there. My main move I'm looking at this week is Saka out, and it will be for a Spurs mid. It's just which mid I go for, basically. I think I'll just end up going Son, but I am very tempted to save the money and then move from Foden up to Palmer. I've got money in the bank, so I've got 1.7 in the bank. So I can move Saka to anybody. I could even go to Palmer now if I wanted to, but I think I will go for a Spurs mid. It's just which one I go for, basically. But
what's your voice then?
I know. I don't know what happened.
Spurs mid.
But the one thing I will say is I don't really want to move down from Saka and then spread the funds. I want to keep those price points because I want those two premiums in midfield. So I don't want to mess it around too much, but Saka will most probably be going out. I've no idea whether he's going to play this week. And even if he does, I don't expect a lot from Arsenal in that fixture. I think that is as tough a fixture as it's going to get for them. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to do. It's between Son and Kulusevski, I think.
Sorry, because you and Mark are both going to be trebled on Spurs. And that just isn't really something that I would consider. I don't fully trust them. I know their attack's been good, but they went down against West Ham. They've threw away a 2-goal lead against us. They were awful in the second half against Leicester in the first game. They seem to have really good spells and then not so good spells. They're not a very reliable team for a triple up on.
Potentially, but then they were top of the XGC. As they were top of XG on your table.
Yep.
And I look at it and just think with those two fixtures coming up in 11 and 13, to have that triple Spurs and potentially to captain one of them as well, those are the kind of games where you can get massive gains. And I just think, why not go for a triple up, captain one of them, and if it hits, you're flying. And I think that's the kind of thing I quite like at the moment. I've done it with City. I went early on Foden, which actually I'm quite happy I did because otherwise I'd be second guessing whether to go for him now. So the fact I've got Triple City this week, this is the week where I'm hoping to, hit big with them as well. So I think you can do that every now and again, and this is what I've wanted to do. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do it.
Okay. No Man United players for their good run. Year of little faith.
Oh yes. Maybe a Garnacho, but it's tough moving him in with all those other players I want.
Yeah. I'll show you my team. The order of this stream has gone completely out of the window. Technical issues, stream out the window. You're off to do a Sainsbury Tesco delivery. Yeah, it's all carnage. This is my team. It's Raya in goal with Trent Lewis and Moreno. I'm playing him tomorrow. against Leicester away. Foden and Mbumo, Semenyo, Rodgers, Haaland, Watkins, and Solanke up top. Ward, Gabriel Davis, and Dibbling on the bench. Yeah, I mean, I could do Semenyo to Johnson. I've got the money to do it, but I think I'm going to take the punt on Garnacho, as I said.
I like it.
Just something a bit different. I think he's like 8% owned, something like that.
I'll remind you this in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. And all the people on these, all these people on the video, as H United, he's never going to bring in United player and all that. It's like, yeah, well, that'll shut you up when I have one in my team, won't it? I'm playing him every week.
Are you gonna wait to the last minute and get the leak before you get Garnacho in, or are you gonna?
I'll see what comes through in the cartel WhatsApp group and make the decision on that. I will be hoping for a leak on Moreno because there's always a chance he could miss out for.
I'm assuming my request to join the cartel still
pending.
On the pending. Cool.
Yeah. You're not actually a Patreon member yet, so
that's true.
Give us your £8 a month or whatever it is, and then you can.
Cool. I'll see what I can do.
Big question though, Andy. The big question that we haven't even covered yet, and it doesn't show it on this graphic, but it is currently active on my actual FPL team. Triple captain.
Thinking about it?
Any consideration for it? No. Literally
none at all. No. I just don't think I would ever play it in a single game week. Just really don't think I would. The fixtures there, and obviously the people that did it against Ipswich, and you got the hat trick, 17 points times 3, lovely. But double game week, you only have to get a goal in each game and max bonus, and you're beating that. So I will not be doing it this week, and I would be absolutely shocked if I did it in a single game week in any season. I don't even know what the double game weeks are going to be, but it could be that I don't go with Haaland. It could be I put it on Salah. It could be I put it on someone else, Palmer potentially. So no, I 100% won't be doing it. But little birdie tells me you might be.
I'm 60-40 in favour of playing it. I'm a bit annoyed with myself. I didn't play it, on him against Ipswich because obviously Mark and I did the match of the day challenge. Mark didn't own Haaland. It would have been fun to have gone into that challenge with him with all triple captain. And I did have it on him very briefly, and then I took it off and I thought, it's a bit too early for that. It's like game week. Was it game week 3? Was it game week 2? No, it was game week 2, wasn't it? Yeah. Against Ipswich. I just thought that was a little bit early. My reasoning for thinking about it now is that I've seen Southampton play, and I can't remember too many teams who play as badly in defence as they've done. I mean, it's the perfect blend of, a manager who isn't changing his philosophy. And in some ways, fair enough. That's how they got promoted. He doesn't want to change. But do you need to adapt a little bit to the Premier League? Well, it doesn't look like Martin's done that at all. It's individual mistakes from the defenders. And it's just an overall real lack of quality in that Southampton team.
Yeah,
like Ramsdale was a good signing for them. He's not a bottom 3 goalkeeper, obviously, but that defense, that midfield, the fact they've not really got any like outball to a striker. I know they've got Archer, but you almost want them to have a big man up top that they could, at least alleviate a bit of pressure and win the ball high up and hold it up. They don't really seem to have that. I just don't know how it can happen that City don't score multiple goals against them at the weekend.
What's your expectation on minutes? By the way, my the door's just gone, so I've got to go.
That's it. You're going to go.
Sorry,
Andy,
my man.
Pleasure, as always.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. And I had a message lined up for that. Andy needs to go put his Petit Filou away. This is the first time I've ever done a proper episode of FPL BlackBox on my own. And obviously I did the team selections last season, but haven't actually done them on my own. So yeah, I thought I could just carry on for a little bit. I've got a couple more charts, go through the predictions, can answer some questions and things that people might have. Obviously, it's just me. If you don't like listening to me, then probably best you drop off. Because I'm going to watch the numbers go down crazily. But yeah, if you want to stick around and we could do another half an hour or so, then let's go for it. I do need another beer though. Should I grab that now or should I grab that in a bit? Not too sure. Anyway, let's carry on for a little bit more. Let's talk about some of the other tables that we've got. So let's go through the main one. So this is defenders over the season. You saw on my team earlier that I had Leif Davis at the in the starting 11. He's actually third for expected goal involvement non-penalty per 90 at 0.24. The question marks are around who's going to score the chances that he's creating. He's very much a creator of chances. Shots per 90, when you compare that to Trent, is half. If you compare it to Porro at 2, it's a lot lower than that. But the chance he's creating is really high. 2.5 is the highest. It's now higher than Trent. I think he was second going into the league. Obviously, Trent had a difficult game. But Davis is creating chances at a reasonable rate. There's just no one that can really has grabbed the beer. Will be right. Yeah, we'll do. Okay, I'll do defender tables, and then I'll go grab a beer. I do like Davis. I just don't know. And Mark said this on the video he did earlier in the week, the Let's Walk FPL. Is it enough, to be creating chances when there's not really anyone who can put them away? And I think we've spoken about forwards, we've spoken about Jimenez and Kuna and Strand Larsen. I think Delap was big flavour of the month going into the Everton game, and now it's massively gone down to some of the others. So yeah, we'll see kind of how Ipswich bounce back from pretty bad losses. I mean, to lose that heavily to West Ham and then to lose to Everton in that manner, I think McKenna's going to be worried. They come out of a bad run, they want to start getting points on the board. And then it's a bit of an issue. So, yeah, he's still in my team, but I don't think I'm going to be playing him for the foreseeable. I mentioned Porro. Mark's bringing him in this week. 9 goals conceded is obviously the problem. He hasn't really had the attacking returns. He got that goal in game week 1, not anything else yet. I thought it looked really impressive in the West Ham game, getting forward a lot. I do wonder if Brennan cutting in means Porro goes out a bit wider, means that he's not really getting as close to goal as he maybe was last season. But he's still getting chances, he's still getting opportunities. He had that shot near the end, which was absolutely awful, but it was from kind of the right kind of area. I think he's a decent option. I mean, this week I played Davis over Moreno, and I do wonder if it is like a clean sheet first policy that we kind of need to adapt with defenders. I think particularly this season when the bonus doesn't really favour attacking defenders, the bonus really does favour the clean sheets. Clean sheet for a defender. We sort of, I think it was Murillo, Sells. Did Aina get a bonus in that Forest game? Maybe not. But yeah, it's the it's taking multiple attacking returns almost for defenders to get something from it. So yeah, a bit of a concern. I'm not totally sold on Porro. I think 5.5's a bit too much for him. But yeah, if you've got him, I hold him. I don't think I'll be buying him. Is there anyone else on this list that really inspires? I'm not totally sure there is. I think Milinkovic is a good shout. If you've got him, he's 20th on this list. He has an assist. I think he got that the week before last. I think he's probably the standout in that bracket. I don't mind Aina either, but those fullbacks don't really seem to be getting forward a lot too much. So I think Milinkovic would be the one if you're looking to tap into Forest. Aït-Nouri's 13th, 2 goals, 2 assists. 0.2 extra on penalty per 90, maybe expecting that to be a little bit higher, given the attacking returns that he's got. Maybe suggests that he's been a little bit lucky, but I think he's going to be pretty popular. Obviously, Brighton are going to thrash him this week, so I don't buy him yet, but going forward, the fixtures are pretty decent for them. A couple more that we flagged here. We've got Manning at Southampton, climbing up kind of the thing. Look, his chances created per 90 in the top 10. That's why we're featuring him. Van der Berg in 46th. I'm not sure what happens with Rico Henry when he's back, but at 4 million, I think Van der Berg is probably the one to go for. And then you've got Mikalenko, really popular, 7 points, and from him, obviously Keane got the big haul, but Mikalenko didn't do badly. 89th on the list though. It doesn't really look like you're going to get much from these Everton defenders, so you've really got to hope for those 1-0 wins that we know Deitch is capable of. But again, if you've got him at 4.5, he's probably a bit of a keep. So there's some decent options defence. There's no one that really kind of, I don't think anyone's really a must-own. Trent and Gabriel have obviously got the tough fixtures. Lewis is a hold, but isn't really getting the clean sheets. I think his minutes are pretty safe. I think Walker's kind of being phased out a little bit. Maybe it's a bit of a shame that Stones has made a bit of a resurgence, because he can obviously play kind of in that kind of inverted role. But I'm hoping that Lewis carries on. Vardiol's 18th. I'm going to pay a little bit more for him. 2 goals in the last couple of games. He's obviously a good pick as well. But no one really, I think we said this a lot last season about defenders and not really having too many standouts. I think we're kind of getting that again this year. So, I mean, I've got Trent, Who have I got? I've got Trent, Gabriel. They're okay. I've got Lewis, who I'm reasonably happy with. I've got Moreno. I mean, that could be any Nottingham Forest defender. I'm pretty happy with those going forward. So yeah, not looking to make any defensive moves in the near future. Right, I'm going to grab a beer. I'm going to stick the starting soon back on. No technical issues, I'm hoping, at this stage. It's a bit annoying with Andy. We were a little bit delayed, so thanks for sticking around. A couple of people have left with it, just me, but still 770 people watching. Again, we're carrying on for about another half an hour or so. So I'm going to grab a beer and I will see you all in about 5 minutes. I am back, and what is better than one beer? Sure you know the answer. Oh, it's 2 beers. There we go. Thanks for sticking around, everyone. Still 700 people watching this, which is amazing. If you, I know it's a Thursday night, but if you fancy grabbing an alcoholic or a non-alcoholic drink and joining me as we just rattle through the rest of these tables, that'd be great. Andy is obviously getting his Tesco delivery, and then he has got his community thing where he does that kind of educational. I'd like to think it's like a seminar that he does. So yeah, if you've enjoyed listening to Andy tonight, he's always great to have on standby for these things. Then yeah, check out his community and get involved in that. Right, let's have a look at the mids. 2 cheeky hazy Janes. Absolutely. I don't like Brewdog as a company. You know, there's all the kind of problems that the owner has had in the past, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of how they operate, but unfortunately they do make a pretty decent beer, and I'm a bit of a sellout. So yeah, that's where we're at. Right, let's look at midfielders. Jake's shaking in the background. Is he all right? Yeah, it's fine. Midfielders then. So I mentioned Garnacho. He doesn't really feature well on the list for the last table we showed, which was on the XG for the game week. He's showing up highly though on here. He's 13th on the list, 0.57 XGI non-penalty per 90. I always say around 0.6 is your kind of like elite numbers. If you've got a player who's consistently getting around 0.6 XGI non-penalty per 90, I said that puts them in a pretty good position. When you consider the fact he's 6.2 million as well, I think that's really nice. Interesting, that is identical to Semenyo, who I would be selling for him. The amount of shots Semenyo has is crazy. He does have some from outside the area. I think he's had the most shots of all midfielders, which isn't kind of shown on this table. But in terms of those shots in the box per 90, 2.97 ranks him sort of just below Salah, 2.98. Look at Brennan though, 3.88. That's the highest of all midfielders. But yeah, Garnacho 2.69. Decent touches in the box per 90, 7.37 for him. That's higher than Semenyo. It's just making some hacking noises in the background. That's nice. I've disturbed you. He was fast asleep until when I got these beers. So yeah, it maybe feels a little bit sideways doing that Semenyo to Garnacho move. It's Villa away next for Semenyo, then it's Man City. I think he could get some joy in those. I really don't think, selling is a. If you were going to keep him, I wouldn't say it's a terrible move. Let's put it that way. I'm just trying to tap into those slightly better fixtures for Garnacho, and he's a player that I just genuinely really like. And I'm not seeing him many teams, so there's a few reasons there to get rid of him. Savio is 5th on this list. I think he's an interesting one as well. If you are looking to go for someone a bit different in the Man City attack, I thought he played brilliantly in the Champions League last night. He's looked good in the games that I've seen him play. Obviously, he was amazing for Girona last year, and that's why City have bought him. But I don't think we've seen that kind of player from him in terms of that kind of output. But if you look at some of these numbers, look at those touches in the box per 90, 9.92. That's kind of in the top 5 for midfielders. The XGI 9.0 per 90 is really high, as I mentioned, 0.71. And yeah, I wonder when that right-hand spot of the City team really does feel up for grabs. And he's clearly got a hell of a lot of talent. So I think it's going to be sooner rather than later we see him break in. The trouble is, do you wait or do you take a punt on it for this Southampton game? I think, again, he's someone that's flying under the radar. He might even be someone that I was considering, but I'm already tripled up with Lewis, Foden and Haaland. Someone to consider. Maddison stats are great on here, 0.85, XGI 9.8 per 90, but Andy mentioned his early sub. I think that's a bit of a concern when the player's going off at half-time. Postecoglou said they weren't really controlling the game, which is rare for him to say that. I think he's said in the past that he doesn't care about how much they control it as long as they score goals and get the win. But they need to do something to get a handle on that West Ham game, and it was definitely that sub that changed things around. And Kulusevski's kind of impact that he had, I think, after that sub was made. So I think he's now a bit too risky. And obviously, we've already talked about the Spurs players. I still think Johnson is the one to go for. But I don't blame people for going for Son because we know what his pedigree's like. It's just that Solanke role. We'll give him a couple of weeks, see how he does. But if he's blanked again in the next couple, he's going to be someone that we look to take out. I don't think it's fair to talk about midfielders though without talking about Morgan Rogers. At 5 million at the start of the season, he's not showing up on these stats. You have to go down to 41st to find him, 0.38. He's not in the top 10 for touching the box. He's not in the top 10 for chances created. His points per 90 is 4.47. It's decent, but it's not kind of crazy. This is where I think watching games, having a bit of, making sure you're watching different teams, not just your team when they're on TV, and using the eye test is really clear, because Rodgers to me is looking like he could be one of the, if he made team of the season the way he's playing at the moment, I don't think anyone would be too surprised. He is so key to everything Aston Villa are trying to build, whether it's in Europe. I think he was man of the match in the game the other night. Every game I've seen him play, he's demanding the ball, he's making the runs. His end product is maybe lacking a little bit, and I think if he starts adding those goals to his game, what is his potential? For 5 million, he's never going to be a Palmer. We're never going to have a Palmer again, I don't think, at 5 million. But if Rodgers goes on and could get 170, 180 points and really kick on from where he is now, he's going to go down as one of the best value picks of all time. And I think that's more likely, that trajectory for him, than he gets phased out and doesn't really become an impact for us. So if you're listening to this and you haven't got Rodgers, you're always going to have kind of other priorities maybe to go for, the big hitters and the moving around. But when it comes to saving money and you want to bring some money out of maybe some of the other midfielders, even if the fixtures aren't that good, I still would suggest that you take a look at Rodgers, because I just think he's an absolutely unreal player, and I wonder how long it's going to be till he gets called up for England. Surely Tuchel's got to be looking at that and thinking he's a player that can offer us something a little bit different. Because if you think about De Bruyne for City and the way he can get the ball in midfield and just drive forward, we need more players like that in the England squad, from that kind of central role. That maybe haunt Foden, because Foden has never delivered for England. So yeah, Rodgers had to mention him. The other player I wanted to mention here, just before we move on, is Fatuwu as well of Leicester. I thought he changed the game when he came on against Southampton. I know Harry's got Mavididi. I saw his podcast where he was kind of wondering why he's got him. I don't think he was a bad pick at all. I was tempted to go there kind of at the start of the season. Obviously, there's now other 5 options who are looking a bit better. But with Jamie Vardy, with Mavididi, and with Fatuwu, they've got some real players that can hurt teams. And again, he's not one you're going to buy now, but I think he's someone to watch because he's got that kind of explosiveness in him where over this run of games Leicester have got, once we see him now in that team, I do wonder if he could present a bit of an interesting alternative. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see a little bit on him. Forwards. So this is the interesting position. I'm stacked in my forward spot. Obviously, I've got Haaland, 15 million for him, 10 goals, 3 consecutive blanks, but the stats are just absolutely obscene, as they always will be over the season. It's more of a blip, isn't it? We've already seen the Champions League. He's gonna revert back to form pretty soon. I've got Watkins, who I know quite a few people have maybe binned off in the last few weeks. He's been doing well for me. There is some concerns that he's getting benched a bit earlier than you'd like, 65, 70 minutes. He was benched in the Champions League game as well. Duran got surely it's not his first start, is it? Maybe I think it is his first start other than the Cup. But we imagine Watkins is going to come back in. Good game against Bournemouth. Then it's away at Spurs as well. I don't really hate either of those fixtures for him. Then it's probably a case of moving him on to a Palmer when those fixtures turn around. So yeah, Haaland, Solanke, and Watkins, I'm pretty stacked up top. I do think I'm missing a bit of a trick with some of the cheaper forwards. We've mentioned quite a few of these already. I think Jimenez is the standout for me. 4 goals and assists for him. He's in that kind of purple patch era that he was in before, obviously, his awful head injury. He's an incredible player all his day. Fulham are playing well. 8 points per 90 for someone that costs 5.7 million is just an absolute bargain. So I think if you are considering one of these cheaper strikers, he's probably the one to go for. I think we rule out Calvert-Lewin. I know the fixture's good. He can't score. You've got to be able to score, and he can't. We look at Cunha as well, given the fixtures have turned around for him, the importance that he's got in that side. I don't mind that. I don't mind Strand Larsen if you want to go down even further and save a bit of money. I wonder if the ship sailed a little bit on Chris Wood, given the fixtures. I think he should do all right against Leicester. I would back him to score in that. It's just from that, the fixtures aren't great. I mean, if he does score against Leicester, he's going to be really popular given his price. To be fair, it's West Ham and Newcastle. It's not a bad one, is it? And then Ipswich in 13. I take it back. I reckon he's probably still a good pick up, even after Leicester. Bloody hell, Leicester, West Ham, and Newcastle, and then Ipswich in 13. Is he better than Jimenez? I don't know. Let me think. Let me know. Would you rather go Jimenez or Wood going forward? It probably is actually quite close between them, isn't it? I think I'd go those two over Cunha. For some reason, I thought Wood had really tough games coming up, but he's other than that Arsenal game, they all look pretty decent. So yeah, he's definitely a consideration. Although the stats aren't too great. Other than that, not really a huge amount of options, is there? Isak was someone I thought could end up being in our teams all season. Obviously, had that injury. What's it going to take for him to become a bit of a consideration for us? Probably quite a lot. Visser's back in contention for Brentford. The fixtures aren't bad for him either. 0.77 XG on with 90. He was obviously very popular before the injury that he had. Again, I think there's probably better options in there. And what's happened with Mateta? I mean, I owned Mateta earlier in the season. I got that brace from him. We're all talking about, the fact that he's, the second most goals since Glasner took over. But yeah, obviously unceremoniously dropped, and Nketiah is getting the nod. So I wonder how long that's going to go on for. I don't think Mateta can be too happy when Palace aren't scoring goals and he's been dropped, and he's been such a key man for them. Trigger Lips is in the chat. He asked who I'm talking to. That's a good question, Trig. I do often wonder that as well. I'm just here talking to myself, pretty much. Actually the views have gone up to 705. Yeah, thanks for all sticking with me, and cheers. I've kind of missed these solo streams. There's something a little bit. They're kind of relaxing in a way, but also a little bit frantic, because you've got to keep talking. You can't really have too much time just to kind of sit and have like a silence. When you kind of bring in someone, when you're the hosting and you kind of bring someone else in, you can have a little bit of a pause, have a bit of a drink, kind of collect your thoughts. You just kind of got to keep talking. But yeah, at the same time, I don't really mind them. So yeah, thanks again for joining me with these. I think all we're going to talk about next is the predictions. Just go through some of these. I would give a shout out to Sleeper at this point. Obviously, they sponsor BlackBox, and a lot of the reason why we're able to do these streams and put things into invest in new equipment and bring trophies into the Godfather tier, our amazing patrons, the fact people put up with the ads on the streams, and also the sponsors that we get on these. So big thank you to Sleeper for this. There's some links in the description. There's obviously the Champions League pick'em game, which you can take part in, where you predict Champions League games, all of the Champions League games essentially, with I think it's $1,000 for the top 3 in each match week, and for that. So check out the link for that if you're a Champions League fan. Obviously, you've got the Premier League pick'em as well. There's a Black Box League for that. We do a monthly prize. We've given away a Google Pixel and a PlayStation 5 so far over the last 2 months. There's obviously 1 week to go, so congratulations to whoever wins that. But yeah, get into that now. There's a link in the description. Download it, give it a try this week, and then try and hit November hard. To try and win that monthly prize. But if you scan the QR code on the screen, you'll be able to download the Sleeper app and check out all their news and cool things. No gambling involved at all. There's no way to even deposit money if you're using the UK version of Sleeper. All games are completely free to play. If there is ever any gambling that is introduced to Sleeper, Mark and I will obviously reconsider the partnership we have with them. I know it's a hot topic on Twitter and everything like that. Mark and I have no intention to partner with gambling companies. We've had offers from Bet365, from Paddy Power, from other companies like that. Mark has pushed us to get involved in So Rare, which isn't gambling but is crypto, which I feel a bit funny about, and NFTs. He's really enjoying that too. Fan Team is something that I've played, which obviously has the gambling element. Again, it's not something we'd ever promote on BlackBox because I know the gambling side of things and how it affects people. So yeah, that's just my little speech on that. Sleeper have been a really good sponsor for us though, so yeah, do check them out if you're interested. Fixtures though, and look, we've got a new graphic, and again I want to give a shout out to, honestly, so much of what we do on BlackBox comes from the viewers and the people that watch this. The Patreon WhatsApp group that we've got is absolutely incredible, and the Discord channel is growing, and I love interacting with people on that. Ed's brother, Ed from Scout, his brother has done like the intro video for us, which we love. We've had other people do the graphics. FPL Poker Player's done the sound for us, and now we've got Lee and Liv doing things like the prediction website that we've got, which if you're a Godfather tier member, you can track all the predictions that you're putting in and see how you kind of compare to others. Obviously, they built us this graphic so Mark and I can track our predictions and then enter them in. Where would we be without the kind of community? And it's been a bit of a tough week for me in the community this week, for anyone that's kind of following that. But there's so much of it that I still love and still enjoy. So yeah, just want to say thanks for anyone who's helped out Mark and I, because yeah, it does mean a lot to us. It's just someone's pointed out that they're not in order, which is brilliant. Woodstock Chris. Yeah, this was something that I learned from James last week, that the games the 3:00 games, for example, are in alphabetical order. So it would be Aston Villa, Brentford, Brighton, Man City. It's just not something I'd ever thought about. But yeah, it is weird them not being able to. It's Lee that does this. So Lee, if you're watching this from Australia, make sure these are in alphabetical order, or people are going to start kicking off. Let's rattle through these though. It's Leicester Forest tomorrow night. I'm playing Moreno. I don't feel too good about it. I think Forest probably win this game. I think Wood's going to get something out of it as well. But I think Leicester scored. It's scored in every match so far. It's a great comeback against Southampton too. But I think Forest have just got a bit about them at the moment. I think their defence is nice. I like Milinkovic and I like Murillo. Sells is actually looking like a decent goalkeeper now too. They've got it's good attacking options. They've kind of built the team around Kenny Wood's service, and yeah, I think they'll won this one out. I do think Leicester are picking up though. I'd kind of written them off maybe at the start of the season, but yeah, I think they've got options, and I think out of the 3 promoted teams, they're by far the most likely to stay up. Man City, Southampton. This is going to be a bloodbath, surely. I've gone for a 4-0, so has Mark. I have Haaland triple captain in my team currently. I think they score multiple goals. I think Southampton are going to obviously try and low block, but I also don't think they're going to change their philosophy of passing around the back, unless they completely change the way they play. I think they're still going to try and kick it around and try and find a bit of space. I don't think they've got a good out ball to get the ball to. And I think City are going to exploit it with the press that they've got and the players they've got. I just think it's going to be a really, really tough day for Southampton. So 4-0, hopefully some Foden and Lewis involvement, but Haaland's getting all 4 of those goals would be lovely. Brighton Wolves, I think we win this. So if you remember Matoma's solo goal he scored last season, one of the best goals I think I've ever seen. But it's great for a repeat on that. I was really impressed with Brighton, given that we had players coming out for the international break. We had like Minte injured, Welbeck went off injured. You know, we've had like thumpings from Chelsea. We've recovered. It's been a really exciting season already for us. I'm really impressed with Rutter. I think he's a real differential if you're looking for someone completely different for a 1-week punt. And I think we'll have a bit too much for Wolves, but I like Wolves and I want to see them start getting some points that they deserve. So I've gone for 2-1 here, and it's a 3-1 for Mark. Brentford Ipswich. Greaves is out. I think this could be a big win for Brentford. Again, I quite like Ipswich, so maybe I've gone a little bit lower than maybe I should have done. 2-0 for them. Mark's gone for a 3-0. And Mbeumo should come out of this with something good. Obviously, got the brace against Southampton, the fellow promoted team. I think he could do very well in this one. So if you haven't got Mbeumo, I think if I did, Haaland's obviously the biggest concern if you haven't got him, but I think Mbeumo's got to be up there, right? I'm expecting him to come away from this with a double digit. Villa Bournemouth, very impressive Bournemouth so far this season. I think that defeat against Leicester was really surprising, but in other games, they've looked really good. I've gone for a 2-0 Villa. In this one, though, they're another team. I just think they'll get the win in this. And looking at those defensive numbers, surely at some point the clean sheets are going to come. Mark's given Bournemouth a goal in this. A 2-0 for Villa with Rodgers and Watkins would be lovely. It's basically the dream result for me last time with both of them scoring. It's a shame Rodgers seems to get booked every time he scores, so it would have been a bigger haul. Everton Fulham. I've gone for a 2-1 Fulham. Mark's gone for a 1-1. See, there's a bit about Everton at the moment. Started to pick up a couple of wins, a couple of clean sheets in the last 2 games. I just think the form of Jimenez with Smith Rowe supplying him is going to be enough to see them through on this. I think we might start regretting selling Smith Rowe. I know a lot of us have done. If you've still got him, I think he's still a perfectly fine hold to have in your team. So yeah, I'm backing Fulham in this one. West Ham Man United. I think of all the teams I've been least impressed with this season, Southampton are probably bottom of my list, and then West Ham close to second bottom. I just think they're so easy to play against. Like, you look at the space they were allowing Spurs to have in that game. Why aren't they packing the midfield? Why aren't they making attempts to try and stifle like creative players? Like Kulusevski was just given license just to completely run the show. Very strange. And it's not the first time we've seen them do that. Against Chelsea, I thought they were really poor as well. I think Ipswich really flattered them the way Ipswich played and approached that game. I just think it's not a great time for them at the moment. And I know Man United are playing tonight. There's a bit about them with Haaland back. We've gone at you in the form he's in, so I'm backing them to get that one. If there was a Garden Centre game, and that's what JS says, I think it probably is the West Ham Man United game, though, isn't it? I wouldn't be cancelling my plans to watch that one. Palace Spurs. I've gone for a 2-1 Spurs. Mark's gone for a 3-0 Spurs. I think if Spurs were to win this 3-0, I think Glasner's going to start fearing for his job, which seems unheard of after the end of the season they had last time out. 3-0, no Solanke, no Johnson, and no Porro involvement. I think that would be pretty unlikely. I think this is the game we start seeing some points for Johnson and Solanke. I think both are good picks going into this. Palace fans might start turning on their players a little bit. You just never really know what you're going to get with Spurs. So if Palace score, I don't think it's going to be too surprising. Chelsea Newcastle. I'm really jealous of Palmer. This week, he's someone that I really want in my team. I look at him every week and think he's got great potential. He's getting 1 assist and getting bonus. I thought he played really well against Liverpool as well. I can't see any way he doesn't get something from this game. Haven't been impressed with Newcastle. They got the clean sheet against Everton away, but other than that, they very rarely keep away clean sheets. And Chelsea are doing very well on the expected goal involvement table for teams. So I'm backing Chelsea to win this. I wouldn't be surprised if Palmer had a same both of these goals and comes away with a big haul. So definitely consider. Definitely consider bringing him in if you don't already. And then Arsenal Liverpool, interesting game. No Saliba for Arsenal. Liverpool looking really strong. Going to be a hell of an atmosphere at the Emirates for this one. I think a draw is probably the most likely, given that neither team's going to want to lose this one. I think we have to consider Liverpool as a title contender this year, along with Arsenal, along with Man City. It's going to be those three right at the top. I think Arsenal will take a draw in this, given that Saliba's out. Liverpool will probably be hoping they can create a few problems for Arsenal and get something. Mark's actually gone for a 2-1 in this for Liverpool. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see kind of how that one goes. I mentioned the prediction standings. You can get involved in this if you're a BlackBox patron. Mark is currently beating me, which is very frustrating with his 55% correct outcomes and 9% correct scores. I'm on 49%, so I've gone under my 50% target. But I think I've got one more correct score than Mark has. So mine's at 10%. I'm having to extend this list each time just to keep me on it. So I definitely need to start picking up. Hotline is winning this with his total score of 73, 59% correct outcome and 16% correct score. Incredible. And he's missed 6 matches and he's still top. So congratulations to him. Andy, who was on earlier, he's just ahead of me. He's on the 50% target, 10% correct score. So yeah, well done. Well done to him. But yeah, if you're interested in getting involved in this, head over to the BlackBox Patreon, sign up, and we can get you involved in this competition. There's a trophy for the winner, which Hotline is currently winning. Captaincy. This is it all just points to Haaland, doesn't it? I mean, Saka's touching the box for 90 is 10.6. His shots in the box is 3.1. Those stats are really encouraging for Saka, but he's playing Liverpool and he's a doubt, so you can't really consider him. Haaland's next with his 10 goals. We don't need to talk about him. He's going to be captured by pretty much everyone other than James from Planet FPL, who won't own him. I don't know who he's going to go for. I imagine he's going to go for Palmer with Newcastle at home. I mean, he could go for Solanke away at Palace, given his Spurs connection, but I don't think he will. I think he's probably going to go for Palmer in that. That's who I'd go for if I didn't have Haaland. Foden's on this list as well. If you think he's going to start and play centrally, I think he's a potential option. If you haven't got Haaland, we mentioned Mbumo as well, at home to Ipswich. I think he's a good pick with his 6 goals this season. But I think personally, the question is, do we captain or do we triple captain? And yeah, as I said, I think I'm leaning towards the triple captain this week. This was my team. I showed this earlier with Andy. The triple captainship isn't active on this, but it currently is in my main team. My move is going to be Semenyo to Garnacho this week, benching Gabriel, playing Raya, Trent, Lewis, Moreno, Foden, Mbumo, Garnacho, Rodgers, Haaland, probably triple captained Watkins and Solanke. So yeah, I'm hoping for a decent green arrow this week. That's pretty much all the content I've got for this stream. More than happy to... I've got 2 beers. I think it was a bit optimistic. I'm barely even started this one. It's hard to drink and talk, to be fair. If you want to get any questions in for me, I'll try and answer as many as I can. I've got a couple of super chats to get through too, so thank you for sending those in. And yeah, thanks for sticking around. There's 677 people watching live. If you could drop a like on the video, that would be amazing. If you're watching this kind of post YouTube, drop us a comment as well. Let us know if you enjoyed it. And if you're listening on the podcast, give us a 5-star review and drop us a review on that too. Yeah, these things, yeah, like I keep saying about the community and how great it is. You know, being a I hate the phrase content creator, but I don't know what else to call myself with this, because I guess I do create content. It just feels like a bit of a wanky term. But yeah, it's a funny experience because I love it and I love talking football and I love doing BlackBox with Mark and I love interacting with people and stuff. But yeah, there are times when it gets you down a little bit. You know, I've had I think I've probably had more negativity over the last couple of seasons than I've had in any other year that I've done it. I think a lot of it does relate to rank, and obviously I had a poor season last year. It's going a little bit better this year, but obviously it's not great. But yeah, it's obviously not begging for compliments and stuff, but it's nice to know that people enjoy the podcast and the streams and things. And you know, ultimately, if people weren't enjoying them and they didn't like it, then you kind of wouldn't bother. The reason why Mark and I stick around is because hopefully we're doing something that people like and we keep enjoying it. As long as those two things keep happening, then we carry on. Yeah, it's sometimes a bit demoralizing sometimes. But yeah, going private, I think, on Twitter is definitely helping. Right, let's take a look at Andrew G. Thank you very much for the $4.99 super chat. Evening, chaps. I'm 4.2 million. Yeah, I've been there, mate. Do not worry. Saka, Diaz, Gabriel, and Calvert-Lewin to Palmer, Foden, Jimenez, and Aït-Nouri for a -12. Am I losing the plot? Oof, a -12. I have taken a -12 twice in my life, and both times it has not gone well. I mean, I look at the 4 players you're looking at: Palmer, Foden, Jimenez, and Aït-Nouri. I like all 4 of those. I look at the 4 you're taking out and think, is there massive potential that they go off over the next few weeks? Saka, Diaz, Gabriel, and Calvert-Lewin. I mean, Saka's a doubt. Diaz has got tough fixtures and, has missed out the last couple of games. Gabriel's got tough fixtures. Calvert-Lewin can't score. I don't hate it. I don't hate it, Andrew. I mean, if you've still got the wild card, maybe it's time to think about using that. But if you haven't, I'm finding it hard to say no to it. You're 4.2 million. You've got Foden at 6.6% ownership. You've got Palmer, who's a great pick. Jimenez in great form. Go for it. I'm going to say go for it. Unbelievable. Yeah, I like it, Andrew. I'm not going to try and talk you out of it. I know it's for a -12, but I think it's big improvement to the rest of your squad. Caleb is in the chat. Caleb is one of our Patreon tier members. Don't ask him for his opinion on goalkeepers because he's absolutely bloody useless at picking them. And he's asking me for a goalkeeper move. Raya to Onana. Oh, God. Just stick with Raya, Caleb. I mean, I know you've kind of broken him and you're not really seeing any joy from him, but I still maintain that Arsenal are going to be one of the best defences in the league. They've had 3 red cards in 8 games. It's been a bit of some freak kind of occurrences. I just think, I know the fixtures aren't great, but if Arsenal do keep a clean sheet in the next couple of games, he's going to have made a couple of saves and be in the bonus. And I mean, Manchester United defensively, I know they've been okay, but I don't fully trust them. I would just leave it. You're going to keep chasing goalkeeper hauls, and you're going to miss out on ones from your own team. Ray is a good goalkeeper. I would just stay with him. Davies family first. Play one of Robinson or Davis and one of Semenyo or Smith Rowe. I'd definitely play Smith Rowe against Everton. So I think that one's quite easy. I'd probably play Robinson as well. Yeah, I think Robinson and Smith Rowe. I mean, if you do, I don't hate playing Robinson and Semenyo, but I would think that I mean, I've got Fulham to beat. I've got Fulham to beat Everton, so I think play your 2 Fulham assets. They're a good team this season. Henning, good to see you, Henning, also one of our Patreon members. Is it worth a -4 to swap Saka to Son? Hope to pay for your beer, Azar. You're very kind. Is it worth a -4 to swap Saka to Son? That's a tough one. Again, if we get a leak, the cartel gets a leak that Saka's out, yeah, it probably is. I mean, it depends on your benches, doesn't it? You might have a decent player on your bench. If you've got Semenyo on your bench, I'd probably just play him and bring him in. -4s are tricky to get right. Depends what your plans are for Son long term. If you're going to look to get rid of him for Palmer or someone in a few weeks, it's probably not worth it. If you think you're going to keep him right up to game week 13, 14, it might be the move to make. I'd be a bit reluctant to take a -4 to swap Saka out. I think Saka's going to come back into consideration in a few weeks. If he lines up against Liverpool, you might even be wanting him back kind of straight away. I'd hold unless you're 50-50 or less that he's not going to play, and then you can consider it depending on who that bench option is. I won't read yours out super duper just because it's I don't want to mention the person that you're talking about. FPL Gold, your marker of credit. Oh, it's a nice soppy one. Your marker of credit to the FPL community. Ignore the likes of a certain someone. I'm sure you discussed Foden, but what's a summary I'm avoiding? Yeah, I mean, the summary is I've got him. I'm happy with him. I think he starts. I think he plays centrally. I can't see him playing on the left or on the right. I don't think that's where Pep wants to use him. I spoke to Luke about it. Luke thinks Foden is at risk when Pep wants to make sure he's got control of the midfield. And if he's playing against like a combative side in midfield, then he might be someone who drops out, like we saw with Wolves. Against Southampton, he's not anticipating much of a midfield battle, and nor am I. So he's pretty sure that Foden is going to start in that. I just think, ranks are pretty low. It's game week 8. We can take a punt on someone. You've got Saka with tough fixtures and potentially injured. Salah as well. Son, is he the best option? I don't know. I just think there might not be too many opportunities to go for someone like Foden because of all the other options that we've got. And against Southampton, I don't think there's many better punts. We know what he's capable of. He's an absolutely unbelievable world-class player on his day, and he's playing the worst team in the league. I genuinely think they are the worst team in the league. So yeah, go for it. I think it's pretty safe. Matthew Perry, Ndai for Wissa. We'll just play it safe with Wood. Just go for Wood. Just go for Wood. I think that's an easy one. I think given what I've learned about the fixtures tonight, I'm a bit worried about not owning Wood. And again, don't think I'd be saying that kind of at the start of the season. Wissa's a fine pick, but he's been injured. We don't know kind of what we're going to get. We know exactly what we're going to get for Wood. We're going to get an attack who are basing, their team around getting him service. So I'm afraid it's a pretty boring answer for me in that. And Dr. David 1963 agrees. There you go. Sam Vime says Brighton played Wolves already this year. Was an easy 3-1. Don't know why everyone's piling on Aït-Nouri this week. No, I think you can wait a week on him. I think people are piling on him because they're getting rid of Trent and Gabriel or Saliba. And it's not really that obvious to know where to go, particularly if you're looking for kind of the medium to long term. He has got the attacking threat. Who else you go for? We talked about how there's a bit of a lack of options at kind of 4-5, like a Mikalenko or something like that. You get in Aït-Nouri, he's probably going to concede against Brighton. I'd be very surprised if we didn't score in that, but I wouldn't be too surprised if he got an attacking return. And then I think he is the best 4-5-ish option defender. So I can see why people are kind of going for that. Let's see if there's any more questions before I call it. AB says about Ederson is killing me now. Can't keep clean sheet. Yep, you and Praz both. I think it's he's not someone that I've ever wanted to own. But then again, I thought Raya would do the job, and he hasn't either. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame. And I'll take one more question. If the question is just from Trigger. Haaland rested for Stones this week. I hope not, Trig, considering I'm expecting to play the triple captain on him. Mo says, good solo effort this. Yeah, bit of a strange one. Not had to do a black box solo before. Not sure what's happening next week. I think Mark said he might not even be around next week as well, which I'm sure will upset quite a few people. Might see if Luke or Randy's around. Hopefully Andy won't have another delivery. It was a bit last minute with Mark because hopefully Pip isn't listening, but Mark literally forgot until about 7 p.m. last night and was like, oh my God, I've just realised it's Pip's birthday. So I hope he's treated as something nice. I've met Pip and yeah, she puts up a lot with that man. Bless him. I love you, Mark. Right, I'm going to call it there. Thank you all for sticking with me. It's amazing to know that we've stuck at around 700 people watching, even though I've been just chatting on my own. Sorry for the technical issues at the start. Hopefully the graphics are okay on this stream. And yeah, I'll be back next week with someone. Not totally sure who it's going to be, but I'll definitely be back next week. And good luck this game week. If you are triple captaining Haaland, I hope he goes absolutely mad for you. And same if you've got Foden too, because they will be the decider whether I come into next week pretty happy or pretty miserable. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you and see you next week.